when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.
All right, hey, welcome back. So, in this episode, I wanted to go ahead and cover a couple of things that are going to be important for you to just understand in the long run. So, very quickly, I'll switch over here and let's make sure. Okay, so the very first thing I want to discuss is semantics versus syntax. And so these are a couple of terms that you're going to hear very often as you code, in the beginning especially. So I just want to make you very familiar with these, and so you just know what they are. Simply, just think back to these HTML elements and these CSS rules. So when we're talking about syntax, we're talking about the rules that basically make up the structure of the element or of the rule. And you need an opening and closing tag, and the opening tag consists of opening angle bracket, closing angle bracket, tag name, and the closing tag includes a / in there. And if you don't include, for example, the closing angle bracket on the closing tag, then this is technically invalid HTML. And even if in some cases you can leave off the closing tag entirely, and it'll still build, it'll still compile. But then when you go to put it on the internet, if you ever go to publish it, it may touch some XML code, which is another type of, one phase deeper as far as speaking with the machine. And XML would not build, it would not compile, because that angle bracket was missing, or the closing tag is missing. So when we talk about syntax, we're talking about basically law of the structure, the required way to build an HTML element or CSS rule. Now, when we're talking about semantics, we're talking about meaning of the structure. So it gives intention to the elements and to the rules and improves readability. And let me show you kind of what I mean here. So each one of these has a name to them, a paragraph that tells you this is a paragraph, this is a heading 1, a heading 2, heading 3, and an image, and those sort of things. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about semantics. So if we cruise on over to writer, actually, let me escape out of this there. Here we go. So if we look here, we have this H1 through H6 in the paragraph that we talked about last time, and this is what it looks like currently for our reference website. And so what I wanted to show you is that this could be changed. So ultimately what we're doing is we could go in here and we could call all of these divs. And this is a type of element that you can use. And what will happen is it's going to go back out of style as far as how we wanted it to look and the size and things of that nature. But then what you can do is you can turn around and say div here instead, and we could say div here as well. And we could change, basically what we could do is we could go through and change each one. We could change the size of each one so that it basically matches how it was using CSS. But the point of that is not to show you that you can do that, but more to show you that if you did that, then when people go and look at these pages and they're trying to figure out your the way that you've structured your code and why you've done what you've done and what each thing means, they'd be looking at all the same divs and going, this doesn't make any sense. So that's just something that you want to pay attention to, is the semantics, because you're eventually going to be able to make your own names in various pieces of code, and the semantics of like how you structure that name become very important. But I just wanted to go over that very quickly and let you know the difference. And so we've got this back up to the original version of how it was. And the next thing I wanted to talk about is, let's say here I have this this paragraph here, right? And what I want to do is I basically want to make a duplicate, except for what I want it to do is I'm going to put a couple of spaces, a couple of lines between, and a couple more lines, but this one I'm going to tab backward, and I'm also going to have a bunch of spacing in here. And so that's how I want it to look. And so what I do is I save this, right, and I go back here and wait a second, you know, look, it's just regular plain old text. And the reason for that is that the browser eliminates all unnecessary white space. And so you'll get one single space in between words. And let's see if that qualifies. Actually, don't know if it qualifies right at the beginning. It doesn't. It eliminates any unnecessary space right at the beginning of the tag as well. And so I could space this out all I want, and it won't matter. It's still gonna come up in the browser on the web page in your browser. It's always gonna be eliminated, all that extra white space. And so if we wanted it to look like this, then what we would need to do is use something called a pre-tag. And that's for pre-formatted text. And so if we wanted it to look like this, we could then use this, and be sure to change the end one as well there. And then if we went back to it, now you're seeing a different kind of look for the font family. But ultimately, you do get that look that you're looking for. So if I wanted to eliminate all those extra spaces and just have it right at the beginning, I could do that as well. And so you could have some form of pre-formatted text and use that pre-tag to get the job done. Whereas a paragraph is naturally going to have white space deleted by the browser, whereas the browser will notice that the pre-formatted text tag wants it to remain, you know, very basic. And I forget what kind of font family. As a matter of fact, I don't know what kind of font family this is. I'm not strong on that, but what I will say is you can come in here and you can start to style anything you want with the pre-tag, just like anything else. So we could say, for example, let's go font size. Oops, not style. Font size. And we'll just say 24 pixels, sure, why not? 24 pixels for now. And then we'll say color blue. No. How about font family cursive? Just so I can show you something new. All right. Then we come in here and we get a 24 pixel sized text in cursive, perfectly formatted the way that we were hoping it was. And we'll get into the font size, font family, and we'll dive into CSS more on this next video. We're going to get into selectors. And so I'm going to keep this one being a short video this time, but I did want to show you kind of some various ways that you might pre-format your text. And we're getting into, on the HTML side, we're doing more of a deep dive into text type of related things right now. And then on the CSS side, we're going to start getting into, in this next video, selectors, and actually dive into changing around position, size, color here in the near future. All of that's coming up on the CSS side. But that's what we've got coming, and that leaves us off for now with a little bit of, formatted referral to come back to on our reference site. And so let's leave it off there. And here in the near future, we're also going to get going on our personal websites. And we're going to start using some of these things that we've learned on the reference website. What we want is to have all of them just kind of sitting there for us to look at and go, okay, how did we do this thing? Boom. I can come in here. I can even do the inspect, and I can find out. I can say, okay, what is this? Oh, this is my pre. How did I do that thing? What were the features of it? Come over here and look at the CSS on this side, look at the styles and say, okay, right now we've got it at 24 pixels and it's in cursive. So that's what I did. And obviously I used that pre-tag there. So you can kind of very quickly assess what's going on with your work. And I'll leave it off at that. We'll jump into selectors and a little bit more into the text stuff on the next video. Matter of fact, it'll be a very specific CSS video because I'm just gonna go right into those selectors and make that the topic. But if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, love to hear from you. Hit me up in that comment section, and I will see you in the next one.